Our task will not be an easy one. However, we have not had imposed upon us a massive busing order or pairing order. We want the public to be completely informed as to all of the specifics of this court order. We are working now on specifics for release to the news media. We have today briefed all school principals, and we suggest that parents and students contact their local school principals concerning their status for the coming school year. I want the people of Montgomery to know that the school principals, teachers, administrators, and Board of Education members have worked around the clock in order to maintain a quality school system in every school in this system. I would like to say this to the general public. Hopefully, this is Montgomery's final court order. We are going to have a quality education program in every school in this school system, regardless of its racial makeup. We ask for your patience, your understanding, and your support. We need this as we have never needed it before.
Mr. Garrett, basically we're speaking about the rerouting of transportation rather than busing per se. How does this affect the economics of the school system?
From a transportation point of view, George, not any appreciable amount. We estimate that under this court-ordered plan here that we will have to transport approximately 301 more students next year than we are now transporting. And considering the fact that we're transporting some 11,500 approximately, this is a very small percentage. We feel that we can absorb it with our present transportation fleet.
We first started trying to plead with the board and tell them that we were representing the seniors at Lanier and the seniors in all of Montgomery that were affected by this new court order. And we tried to plead with them for senior privileges and priority to go back to the school where they'd been for 2 years. And we tried to impress upon them the fact that the difference that it would make in the ratio if they pulled out the seniors in the busing was not as great as if they left the seniors in the court order and bused them to other schools. It would be such chaos, and the chaos wouldn't be worth the ratio that they would gain.
We've prepared for 2 years just to be able to take on these new responsibilities, and now this court order has limited us to a point where we will not be able to function either way until we are able to start the year off and have another set of elections.
I know a lot of the people at Lanier are upset because they've been to Lanier for 2 years, and they've set all their plans for Lanier and all their hopes, and they've really grown to love it. They've made their friendships, and they've really got to know their teachers real well, and everything that they have is at Lanier, and they're having to be sent to different schools. And a lot of people are upset, even the ones who are staying at Lanier, because their friends are going to be going to other schools, and it's creating a lot of trouble. trying to impress upon them that the leaders were in the senior class because they had worked for these positions for 2 years, and all of the offices have been elected, the staffs for publications had been picked, the varsity sports and ROTC had already worked up to their leaderships as commanders and their leaderships as first string and starting lineups, and that all these would be taken away from the people if they had to go to other schools and then start back almost as the same as sophomores at the beginning.
The major affected areas, perhaps we should begin with the Carver and Lanier High School changes. This area here, west of the city and west of I-65, including the Maxwell Air Force Base, that has been coming by the Carver High School to Lanier High School, will be zoned to Carver High School for 1974-75, with an area here in the Woodcrest and Twin Gates region of the city out toward Danley Field coming to Jefferson Davis as part of its zone. Changes concerning the Montgomery East area here coming into Jeff Davis from Lee High School, and up in the city, as far as Carver and Lanier are concerned, the south of the bypass area known as Town and Country and the area near the Harrison Elementary School is zoned into Carver from Lanier High School. And then one further significant change, two further significant changes with Jeff Davis first. The area south of the bypass that presently attends Jefferson Davis High School here in the Spring Valley and Woodley Park, Ellsmead area is zoned into Lanier High rather than Jeff Davis where it presently is zoned. And then Lee High School gets an area north of Day Street and West Jeff Davis here around the interstate I-85 and I-65 area that presently attends Carver, and all of that region north of Day Street and West Jeff Davis that presently goes to Carver High will be zoned into Lee High. Those are the major high school changes.
What about the busing status on those children right now?
These by and large, almost in every instance, for instance in the Lanier-Carver change, all of these children in this area are now transported to Lanier High School and this area here that's zoned into Carver. So all of those in that instance, every single one, I believe, are presently transported. The vast majority of these in Jefferson Davis here are transported that would be going to Lanier, and some of these are transported that are going to Lee from Carver. And all of these over in Montgomery East here are transported to Lee now and will be transported to Jeff Davis.
Now, would you, if you please, turn to the junior high school map and point out the areas of the areas that are going to be affected mostly in the plan?
There are several closings of junior high schools involved, and perhaps we'll start with Booker Washington. Booker Washington Junior High up in this area is being closed, and its attendance area is being absorbed south of 85 into Cloverdale, north of 85 around the Booker Washington School building up to Madison Avenue is going to Houston Hill, and the new Trenham Courts, the Trenham Courts area here, presently going to Booker Washington, is going to Capitol Heights. In the Hayneville Road Junior High area now over here near the H&R point in the western part of the city, this junior high is being closed. The elementary 1 through 6 is being retained, and Floyd Junior High will get this portion of the Hayneville Road zone around the school out to Western Boulevard. The Smiley Courts housing area right at the southern bypass that presently goes to Hayneville Road, that's the rest of its district will go to Goodwin Junior High.
Mr. Grisser, there's changes being made out at Georgia Washington Elementary School. What are they?
The changes that are made in the order, presently Georgia Washington is out at Mount Meigs as a 1 through 9 school. The elementary school 1 through 6 is closed under the order, and those pupils are transported into the new schools or other eastern side schools in the city, leaving a junior high there, which is proposed to be some 1,100 students. Down on the county map here, this is the general area of the Georgia Washington School, and this shaded area here, which is east of the Troy Highway down into the county a good distance, and roughly east of the Perry Hill Road area, such areas as Green Acres and Heatherton Heights, then Carroll Villa, Watson Circle, College Grove, and other areas up through here, Montgomery East. This zone line is at this point here for the Georgia Washington School, coming inside the eastern bypass along to about this point, picking up Carriage Hills and some other areas here along in this vicinity on either side of the Troy Highway.
What other aspects in the junior high level need consideration at this time?
There are some other changes. I might hasten to say that this is an all-black junior high presently and is being proposed to be some 69–70% under the order white, predominantly white junior high school. This change involved here is the Chisholm area, which is under the order and in compliance with the March 13th court order, zoned into the Houston Hill Junior High School to make it predominantly white as the order called for. That's a major change there. I think a change on the McIntyre and Lovelace, McIntyre Junior High in the western part of the city and Lovelace Junior High here near the intersection of 85 and 65 are consolidated. Their present junior high attendance areas are consolidated, and McIntyre will become a large junior high school with the elementary students presently attending McIntyre going to the Lovelace Elementary, which will become an all-elementary with the same attendance zones for each. The Carver Junior High facility represents, as shown here on the county map, a significant change in conjunction with Baldwin. All transported pupils that presently come from this area out west of the city limits and west of I-65 who now attend Baldwin will be zoned into Carver Junior High under the present order, with the exception of the Woodcrest and Twin Gates area, more clearly shown here on the city map, which will go to Cloverdale. The remainder of this rural area becomes Carver Junior High, which is projected to be a predominantly white junior high. As we were saying about the junior high schools here, there is one other change in the rural area here on this map. Bellingrath's rural transported students will be zoned into Floyd, and this will abolish all the transportation at the Bellingrath facility. And in this instance, as in this instance between Baldwin and Carver, and the instance between Chisholm area going from Goodwin to Houston Hill, and all of the new Georgia Washington zone, these students are all on buses and presently transported to the school they attend, and this is merely a rerouting of existing transportation in almost, if not every instance.
Lance, apparently the changes that have been ordered in the elementary level are not as drastic as the public had maybe anticipated. Is that correct?
Yes, George, I think that certainly is true. The plans proposed by the plaintiffs and the plaintiff intervenors and their educational experts were certainly far more drastic than the plan ordered and the plan filed by the school board. And in the plan that we have now in the court's order, the neighborhood elementary school concept has been retained by and large. Basically, the changes have to do with the closing of some substandard schools, such as the Chilton Elementary School deep in the heart of Montgomery here, and the closing of the Madison Park Elementary School out on the northern part of the city. And as mentioned previously, the Georgia Washington Elementary School, which is being converted to a large junior high, and with those children being transported in each instance, I believe, to eastern side city schools. We have, in conjunction with that, of course, 2 new elementary schools, one on the Vaughn Road, which some of the Georgia Washington elementary children will be coming to, and the general zone line here being around the Perry Hill Road area eastward, the Vaughn Road School being across the street from the Green Acres subdivision area, and the Eastern Bypass School being in this area here near the Atlanta Highway and Eastern Bypass intersection, with children from roughly a line west of Watson Circle and the College Grove, Gunner Grove area here, and the Montgomery East area coming into the Eastern Bypass School. So the opening of the 2 new elementary schools, the closing of, I believe, Good Street I failed to mention. The Good Street school will be closed with the students there zoned to the adjacent schools, Bellinger Hill and Fuse, and the school being converted actually a center for additionally handicapped students. These are the basic changes, I believe, at the elementary level. As we stated here, the Eastern Bypass School would involve the Montgomery East area being in that zone. We should say that the Wares Ferry Road is the dividing line between the Capitol Heights Elementary School's periphery. These students north of Wares Ferry Road here would be going to Capitol Heights Elementary. Those south of Wares Ferry Road in the Montgomery East area would be in the new school. In summary, concerning these changes that we pointed out, they concern primarily the rerouting of existing transportation and the changing of adjoining school zone lines. This constitutes the major thrust of the order as we understand it.
So that the first portion of the new Constitution of Alabama was the judicial article, which was passed in the legislature last time and submitted to the people this past December. But that's just a part. Other parts of the new Constitution will be submitted to the 75 legislature. Hopefully it will pass. The ultimate aim will be for the state of Alabama to have an entire...
And do you concede that Alabama could be a leader as far as its judicial system is concerned?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. If the judicial article is implemented in the manner in which I think it will be, I think we have an opportunity to have one of the greatest judicial systems of any state in the United States. It's very exciting for me to be a part of that.
Mrs. Shores, how far-reaching is the judicial reform? Will it affect every court in the state?
Yes. Well, the Supreme Court has been given for the first time in 100 years what it should have had all along, and that is the inherent power to supervise all of the courts in the state of Alabama by rule-making procedures, etc.
And that puts all of the courts then under the Supreme Court's rule.
Yes, I've said all along, and I think it's a valid remark, that I think it's absurd for an equal branch of the government not to have an administrative head. And this provides for that in the form of the Chief Justice. The adoption of the amendment to the Constitution, it permeates the entire judicial branch of the government. Now, legislation will have to be enacted to implement that amendment to the Constitution, of course, leaving to the legislature the right and power to enact implementing legislation going to the jurisdiction of the various courts, which will be established under the article.
The committee had 19 tapes, I think 23 transcripts of tapes, literally thousands of other documents that they have requested and been given. It seems to me that before calling for any more tapes and making an issue out of it, they ought to digest the vast amount of material they have on hand at the present time. And I approve of the suggestion made, I think yesterday, by Congressman John Rhodes that indicated the committee ought to call a number of witnesses who might be helpful in the interpretation of any tapes or any other evidence, such as John Dean. There ought to be public open hearings where these individuals testify, and when they get all through with the evidence, with the witnesses, if they need any more material that is relevant to the language in the Constitution, that spells out the grounds for impeachment, then they ought to ask for them.
Of becoming a bona fide police state.
Well, I am the...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
I think it would be a very ill-advised thing for the president to resign. He thinks he's innocent. I happen to think he's innocent. And for him to resign under those circumstances would leave an implication of guilt. I don't think he's guilty. He doesn't think he's guilty. I think he ought to stay, and if the House committee and the House want to act, they have a constitutional obligation to do so. I'm saying that until they have concluded what I think is a responsible committee procedure, after all, they've got lots of material, they've got some potential witnesses that probably ought to come up and testify under oath. This is a responsible procedure, and until the committee acts in a responsible action, I can understand the attitude of the White House. Yes.
That America has been on the verge.
I really don't think I ought to prejudge what Senator Sparkman ought to do or will do. That's a judgment for himself to make. I think the state of Alabama is very fortunate that they have in Senator Sparkman a person who has the option of either being the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations or the Committee on Banking and Currency. But I think that's his decision, and I would certainly not want to transgress on his judgment in that regard. Particular primary contest into a nationwide trend. There were some very unusual, very different circumstances there. The committee should hear the tapes, read the transcripts, get the benefit of Mr. Doerr's presentations, and I think they might well call some witnesses, as John Rhodes said yesterday. I think their testimony would be relevant. But once that's done, then they could sit down and negotiate if there's any more evidence that's needed.